You are listening to the Bases Juiced podcast with John Source and Brian Goudsworth.
And hello everybody, welcome back to the Bases Juiced podcast. John Source here with Brian Goudsworth. Brian, a lot of baseball obviously going on here, but we a little friendly series here this week for us. The Royals and the Mets, Citi Field, World Series rematch part 2 if you will there, and two teams split the first part of the series to open up in Kansas City, but Brian, the Mets got the last laugh this time. We were at the game Wednesday afternoon. It was a good game. Royals, they've kind of been struggling of late, but what did you see here from the Mets on Wednesday afternoon?
Well, first it was good that we got to see Noah Syndergaard. At first, when the rotation came out, it seemed like the Mets were going to pitch Syndergaard the Tuesday game and then Bartolo Colon Wednesday, but ended up getting switched. And Syndergaard, I didn't think he had his best stuff out there in the game we were there Wednesday afternoon. We found out afterwards that he had to come out of the game prematurely with elbow soreness. Luckily, that's not any kind of a big deal, so they don't have to worry about Tommy John or any kind of injury. But as far as the game, the Mets hit a couple of home runs like they usually do. What else is new? Asdrubal Cabrera, 2-run homer, and the one that won the game for them in the 6th inning, Matt Reynolds, his first home run of his career. He actually started in left field, his first ever start in the outfield. So we got to see Syndergaard, couple of long balls, and I was happy. I know you were probably a little disappointed, but of course you have the big laugh because you got the World Series championship last November, of course.
Yeah, well, and you're right with Syndergaard, like you said. We had no idea until after the game that he came out with an injury. It didn't really. It's like Terry came out and took him out from the game. He just didn't come out for the 7th inning. At that point, I think 91 pitches or so. But then we found out afterwards, that him and Cespedes too had the wrist thing. With the Mets, it seems like sometimes you win a game, but there's always some sort of bad news. But fortunately, nothing serious there. But like you said, Reynolds with the big home run there. Really, with this team, if they don't hit the ball out of the ballpark, they're not scoring runs more often than not. So they gotta find a way to manufacture runs here.
Yeah, well, we sound like a broken record every time you talk about the Mets. I mean, it's just kind of the story of the team. I mean, we'll get into last night's game, I guess, in a little bit, but of course, a home run in extra innings is the only scoring of the entire game. Yep. It was a well-pitched game, but, it's just not a team that manufactures runs, and of course, I'm sure we'll get into the news that may bring a player who might bring something a little different to the table, may kind of spice things up for the Mets.
Yeah, well, let's get into that right now. You're talking about Jose Reyes. They're bringing him back, and after a lot of speculation throughout the week since Colorado officially, released him, Reyes is back. I mean, we know he's not the same guy he was with the Mets. Dynamic, spark, a top-of-the-order guy, electrifying player, fun to watch on the field. Hits the ball in the gap, can easily like it a triple. Now he's 33 years old. He's lost a step or two, but still, when they bring him up, I expect him to be at the top of the order. Not going to take Asdrubal Cabrera's job at shortstop, but you'll see him at second. Maybe you'll see him in some third base. I even heard some outfield maybe. They're going to play him around, but I expect to see him in the lineup every day at the top of the order.
Yeah, I mean, they're talking about playing him in a utility-type role. I mean, of course, we remember Reyes in his old day, the only position he ever played was shortstop, and honestly, it was hard to imagine him playing anywhere else. But now, with Asdrubal Cabrera doing the job, holding down the fort at short, and the Mets having some needs in other areas, especially third base, it can move him around. As you said, work him out in the outfield. He's going to report to Brooklyn first. He's playing in the Cyclones game today. He'll be in the minors for probably about a week or so before coming up to the big club. But yeah, I mean, I think that's what he brings, is a spark. This team is dead last in all of baseball in stolen bases. They have like 13 on the season. It's something absurd. So even though Reyes, as you said, he's lost his step, he can still bring that speed dynamic to the game, even if it might not be what it was years ago, and the Mets desperately need that.
Well, I've been saying this for a long time. The Mets have not had speed in their lineup since Jose Reyes, and now they're bringing Reyes back home, and the Mets know the kind of guy that he is, so I mean, more than any organization in baseball. So how do you think the fans are going to take to him coming back?
I think most fans are going to be supportive of Reyes because the organization knows him so well. They signed him at 16 years old, and this is not a guy who has a track record of a number of these kind of instances. It was a horrible thing he did. Of course, nobody defends those kind of actions. It goes without saying. But if there's one team that knows him, it's obviously the Mets. And he had a talk with Sandy Alderson. Sandy Alderson was convinced that Reyes is behind this now and ready to move forward and start a new run here with the Mets. And you know what? I'll trust Sandy's judgment. As far as the fans are concerned, this guy was a fan favorite when he was here because of the way he played, the dynamic quality he brought to the game, hitting top of the order, hitting the ball in the gaps for triples. He made everything happen while he was here. He was the catalyst, the leadoff hitter, everything like that. And I think most fans are going to be energized to have him back in Queens.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. I mean, they're giving him a minor league deal, and really you don't have much to lose by giving it a shot here. So, like you said, they're going to play him all over the diamond here, and we'll see how he goes when he comes up, when he's ready to go. But I'm looking forward to seeing him back because, I mean, it was hard to see him in another uniform when he was, with Miami, Toronto, and then Colorado, but this is where he belongs, with the Mets now. How about what number? Do you think he's going to get number 7 back from d'Arnaud? Because it's hard to see him wearing a different number in the Mets uniform.
Yeah, I don't know how that'll work out. I'm sure d'Arnaud would give up the number to give it to Reyes, so we'll see if that comes to fruition. I mean, we know it's not a big deal, of course, but Reyes, when you think about him in the Mets uniform, you always think about that number 7.
Mets making a couple moves yesterday, Reyes being one. Another one, which was an interesting move, calling up Brandon Nimmo, their first-round pick from 2011, but sending down Michael Conforto in the process. Nimmo will make his Major League debut today, batting 7th, playing right field against the Braves in Atlanta. This is a guy this has been 5 years in the in the making now. Didn't play high school baseball, played American Legion ball, travel ball for Team USA, and it's been a slow process. But I mean, he's played well everywhere he's been, and he's performed well in AAA. I think he's ready for a look. So, Brian, what do you expect from Nimmo here?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to give him a look. A guy who comes from Wyoming, which is not a state that produces a lot of baseball players or, professional athletes. But we'll give him a look. As you said, he's in right field today. I thought he was going to be in the lineup for last night's game, but the long flight from Vegas didn't get there in time, so we got another nice look at Alejandro De Aza getting a start in the outfield. But yeah, I'm looking forward to watching him today in right field, and hopefully he can bring something to the table. On the other side, though, is Conforto going down to Vegas, and if you were to tell me in April that in a couple months this guy was going to be optioned to the minor leagues, I would have said you're crazy. The guy was hitting close to 390 after the first month of the year, and people were already putting the stardom tag on Conforto, which everyone does because people just get ahead of these things when guys show something at a young age. But I don't think this is the worst thing in the world for a guy like this. He goes down to Vegas, which obviously we know is a hitter's haven, can get his confidence back, get his swing back. We know what kind of talent he has. We've seen it in glimpses at the major league level, of course, earlier this year being one. And so I don't think he should take it as a detriment. There's plenty of star players who need to go down and get fixed, and they come up, and they're different guys. So as far as he goes, I don't think it's a concern or a bad thing at all.
Now, plenty of guys have been sent down in their careers, and I agree with you. And the thing with this situation here is they're going to send him down. He's going to play every day, and that means he's going to face left-handed pitching down there, which he wasn't doing at the big league level, which, quite frankly, if he's not good against left-handed pitching, okay, it's fine, but he's got to play against them or he's not going to get better. You don't draft a platoon outfielder 10th overall. So, I mean, that's what he kind of has been, up to this point for them. So, I think, we'll see what we have with Nimmo here. Another exciting player, maybe a little more athletic than Conforto, more speed in the outfield, can make things happen on the bases. Conforto's more of a power guy, but again, two guys who are going to be part of this team long term. Conforto, it's just going to be a matter of getting the swing back against left-handers. Like you said, he was tearing up the league. He played well last year at the beginning of this season as well. So, just going back down, finding your swing again, and the league adjusted. He was struggling there, so they're gonna, he's gonna go back down there, and like you said, it's a hitter's park. But hopefully, he's gonna get his swing back, and we'll see him again soon this summer. So, Mets 2 games out now with a Washington team that's been struggling. They've lost 7 in a row. So even though the Mets have been kind of up and down here of late, they lost 3 to Atlanta. and swept the defending world champions and now split with the Braves. They're still obviously, right in the mix, and you got a Miami team that's only one game behind them, so looks like it's going to be a 3-team race down the stretch. What do you think about that, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Marlins are a team that's been on both teams' heels. They got off to kind of a slow start, but the last couple of months they played very good baseball. They're playing the Cubs this weekend. We know all about the Cubs' best record in the league, and they've taken 2 of the first 3 in that series, so they try to win this weekend. And we talked about the Marlins, on this program, the talent they have, and it's just a matter of putting it all together, which they've started to do this year with Don Mattingly now in his first year managing that club.
Oh, Marlins have been putting it together, like you said. They've have a lot of talented guys. Stanton even hasn't even been going well so far, but once they get him going, again, Fernandez has been very good this year. Just like I said, a team that I think is too talented to not perform well. So we have one team there performing well. Let's talk about the Royals. We were touching on them at the beginning with the Mets, but talk about streaky. I mean, I have never seen anything quite like this. I mean, they're so dominant at home this year. Coming into this series, they're on a tear. Then they go into Citi Field, lose 2 closely contested games. Then they come home and just get destroyed by the Astros in back-to-back games. At Drew Butera, their backup catcher, pitched last night. I've seen a lot of bad baseball being played in my days, but lately, I mean, I've never really seen a team so good, because they go on runs where they're just blowing everyone out and just playing all-around good baseball, and then you're going to have games like this where Edison Volquez's ERA goes from 4.12 to 5.15 in 1 inning. So it's all over the place, and right now I know this division's not very good. At least I don't think. But Brian, right now the Royals are going through another rough stretch. It seems.
Yeah, and I mean, you touched on it there with the starting pitching. Just look at these last 2 games here against a red-hot Houston Astros team, and Edinson Volquez gets charged with 12 runs in 1 inning plus of work. I mean, you're just not going to win ball games with those kind of numbers. George Springer goes for a home run and a triple in the first inning in that game on Friday night, and then yesterday you think, oh, maybe they'll bounce back with Chris Young. Well, he gets tattooed as well. As this Astro team pounding the baseball right now. I mean, Jose Altuve yesterday, 4 hits, it's a home run. Correa went deep. So they're getting the Astros when they're hot right now, and Houston with Texas in that American League Western Division playing really tremendous baseball right now.
Houston's won 7 games in a row, even though they're 9 games back in their division. Texas is 48-27. They've just been excellent all season long, but Houston's a team that once they get hot, which it looks like they're getting hot right now, they can go on a run, and they're a team that I think is going to be in this thing to the end. Like we talked about, maybe some unnecessary moves, jumping the gun, with the Ken Giles trade, who hasn't really been much of anything for them this year, but they still have a lot of talent on that team. Still have a good minor league system with Alex Bregman on the verge of being called up here at some point. So those are 2 teams to watch for going forward here in the AL West. And like you said, with Kansas City here, Brian, they've lost 4 in a row. They're 25-10 at home, but they're 13-25 on the road. Last year, really just the last 2 years, they were equally as good on the road as they were at home. They were not this bad on the road, but now 5 games out, 6 games is Detroit there. So those 2 teams are kind of right there. But the Cleveland Indians, Brian, 43-30. They've won 8 in a row, 23-12 at home, 20-18 on the road. Talk about what you have here with the Indians.
Well, they've been led by their starting pitching through this winning streak. And I'll admit, I've been one who thought the Indians' starting pitching always got a little bit too much credit, that they, people would talk about it as one of the best staffs in all of baseball, and I just didn't think they proved that they were of that caliber up to this point. Well, they're starting to put it all together right now. Danny Salazar is pitching like he's an ace. Corey Kluber, last couple of starts, has been very good. Josh Tomlin quietly has put together a very good year. Bauer now has made the transition into the starting rotation and done a very good job. They've gotten Carrasco back from injury. So 1 through 5, that starting pitching staff is really good, and they're all pitching really well. Offensively, what I like about them is they have a nice mix between young talent and veteran players who've been through the grind. You think of the Juan Uribes, Rajay Davis, Mike Knapp Napoli, those kind of guys, to go with one of the bright young stars in the game, and Francisco Lindor, who's just been outstanding, a very good second baseman in Kipnis. So they have a nice mix on their roster. I like teams that have the young talent and the veterans to kind of mentor them along through this long season. And led by that starting pitching, which is all clicking right now, this team looks like a dangerous group.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've talked about Lindor before on the show. I mean, he's incredible ball player, just all the way around, offensively and defensively as well. But this Indians pitching staff, this is what a lot of people envisioned in the past couple of years. Like when people were saying, "Oh, the Indians, great pitching staff," but it hasn't quite all been clicking at the same time. Right now, it is. And you talk about Mike Napoli, what a find this guy's been. I mean, this year for this team. So the Indians, I think, like I said, looking at this division, you got Minnesota's out of it. The White Sox are 7 games out, Detroit 6, Kansas City 5, so they're all kind of right there. I don't think the White Sox or Detroit are going to be in the mix. That's just what I think. I don't think they're very good teams, but Kansas City, right now, Cleveland's head and shoulders above everyone in this division, but I think it's going to be a 2-team race. Kansas City, the last 2 years, have just been proven that they're never out of a game, but like Brian said before, their pitching's got I mean, it's always the same thing with this team, with Kansas City, the pitching, and right now, Cleveland's pitching is much better, so went really all around. So Cleveland's a team to watch in this division here, along with Texas and the American League. Couple good teams there to watch out for. So, Brian, let's go to Cincinnati here for a moment, because I was watching Cody Reed. You know me and Cody Reed. Anyone who knows me knows how much I love this kid, but I was watching his start yesterday, and I mean, his first start against the Astros, like we said, another team that's hits a lot of home runs, and they had 2 home runs off him in his debut in Houston. Struck out 9 batters, though, so he's getting up some home runs, but he's striking out guys, which is what he's known for. I think he's going to be good, but this Reds team, they're in the transition, as we obviously know, but John Lamb, Brandon Finnegan, Cody Reed, 60% of their rotation coming from the Johnny Cueto trade from Kansas City last year, so I think they're liking that. But it's funny because I was watching this game and the other day, and Cody Reed starts Will Myers with a bunch of changeups, and I'm thinking, okay, they're not throwing him a fastball for a reason. Does him a fastball, ends up in the center field grass out there, and like, well, that's why you don't throw him a fastball. Will Myers, Brian's having quite a year for San Diego, and it's not really a great team, looking forward there, but they're looking toward the future. All-Star game this year. Probably a pretty good chance that Will Myers could be there for the Padres.
I would say he's definitely going to be their representative, and it kind of goes along with the theme of ex-Royals prospects. You're talking about the Reds rotation. Of course, Myers, once the big prize in the Royals farm system goes on to Tampa Bay, where he wins a Rookie of the Year, then kind of gets forgotten about because of injuries and wasn't really all that effective of a player. Now you got him playing first base. He's hitting second in that lineup, and he's having himself really a breakout year. He's got 17 home runs, close to 50 RBIs, hitting a solid 290. So you gotta love what he's brought for them. He's become the force that I think you expected after the Royals drafted him, and he came with so much praise. And finally now, it's taken some years, as it does with some guys, but he's putting it all together this year.
And he showed signs of that too when he won a Rookie of the Year with the Rays, and he had the down year with the injury, and remember when he broke his wrist in Boston a couple of years ago. Was really never the same guy. It was surprising that Tampa Bay traded him away, because now, last year we had an up and down year, but this year it looks like he's fully healthy, not playing center field anymore, and he's playing first base, and his bat has always been his calling card, and he's really having himself quite a year. Another guy who's having a very good year, we talked about the Reds, about the year Jay Bruce is having, 57 RBIs this year, second in the National League behind Nolan Arenado, 63. This is a guy, we know the Reds are rebuilding, but this is a guy they could probably get something for at the deadline.
Well, and I'm sure they're happy that his production has came this year, because the last couple of years, Jay Bruce has not put up numbers even close to this. Now they're in a position where they can get a nice haul for him. With the numbers he's putting up, you put him in a lineup who's in need of an outfield bat. Maybe it's the San Francisco Giants who are dealing with some injuries. Maybe it's someone like Cleveland in the same state there in Ohio. But Jay Bruce is going to really help a contender with the way he's played this season, no doubt.
Let's touch upon the All-Star ballot, Brian. We've got a couple of weeks here until the All-Star game. A lot of Boston Red Sox in the American League. I mean, as the whole lineup has really just been on fire. Salvador Perez, though, leads for catchers, which I think makes sense. You have the Royals. Eric Hosmer, also the Royals, leads at first base. Second base, Jose Altuve. Third base, Manny Machado. Shortstop, Xander Bogaerts. Outfield, Mike Trout, Jackie Bradley Jr., Mookie Betts, and David Ortiz at DH. A lot of Boston Red Sox here, but offensively, all these guys, I would say, are deserving of being here and starting this game.
Well, and it's funny with David Ortiz. I mean, with this being his last season, or at least we think. I mean, I guess that could always change if he just decides I had too good of a year to hang it up at this point. But let's say Ortiz was hitting 220 at this point of the year with 10 home runs. He's going to be starting the All-Star game, let alone having one of the best years of his career. I mean, what he's doing at his age, almost 40, to be hitting close to 340, leading the major leagues in doubles, in RBIs. I mean, it's scary, the numbers he's putting up.
Yeah, well, number one, this is why you don't announce before the season, I'm going to retire, because you have no idea how good you're going to do and maybe want to play another season. But it's remarkable, and for him to have the career that he's had, I still think Edgar Martinez is the best DH of all time. But he's had quite a career, and looks like he's going out on top. So, and what a team to be doing it on, because Boston's obviously right there with Baltimore. Mike Trout with the Angels, obviously, you know how good he is. But Jackie Bradley Jr., a guy who's been known for his defense. But his bat has really come around this year, bro.
Oh, this has definitely been his breakout year. He had a 25-plus game hitting streak earlier in the year. This was a guy, a couple of years ago couldn't stay in the lineup because he just didn't hit enough. Well, this year he's hitting over 300, playing every day in center field. And when you do it with the glove and the bat like he's done, he's turning into quite a player.
Another guy on the Red Sox who's had a pretty nice hitting streak this year, Xander Bogaerts. Very young, 22-year-old shortstop. One of the top. I mean, they've had so many of these top prospects here. This is the year all these guys looks like they're putting it together. Bogaerts, Betts had a good year last year, but he had a nice stretch there as well with the home runs at the top of the order. Jackie Bradley, like we said, but Bogaerts, Brian, from a shortstop, this may be the top offensive shortstop in the game right now.
Yeah, and you just think about the age we're in of young shortstops, just how many good ones there are. We talked about Lindor and Carlos Correa and Bogaerts, of course. Corey Seager, who's starting to put it all together with the Dodgers. I mean, you can list even more than that of guys who are playing the shortstop position age 25 or younger and are all-stars in this game. Bogaerts, this year he's hitting about 350 in the middle of a lineup, hitting third, which has scored the most runs in all of baseball. I mean, all these guys are so much fun to watch.
And obviously, so many talented guys. Second base, Cano, Pedroia, Ian Kinsler, all having great years. But Jose Altuve's, I think, having the best season for second baseman in the American League. Last night was a triple shy to cycle. I mean, this guy's remarkable, really.
He is, for a guy who's 5'5", the power that he has. I mean, he's always had the ability to hit for a high average, but now he's kind of adding another dimension to his game with the power. He steals bases, and he's red hot right now for an Astros team that, as we said, is going really well.
So, Brian, let's talk about the National League now, and let's start with catcher Yadier Molina's leading the way. Buster Posey's close behind, but Wilson Ramos having an excellent year with the Nationals. He's third in the voting right now. First base, well, let's just say infield is full of Cubs. Anthony Rizzo, Ben Zobrist, Chris Bryant, and Addison Russell. Outfield, another Cub, Dexter Fowler leading the outfield. So Bryce Harper and your one Cespedes to round out there. Let's start with the Cubs, I guess, Brian. Anthony Rizzo, he's having a great year. Ben Zobrist, okay, but how is Daniel Murphy not starting the game in second base, Brian?
Yeah, well, I really don't know. And it's not that Ben Zobrist hasn't had a good year, because he has. But if you were to pick one guy right now, it has to be Daniel Murphy. The guy had been hitting around 400 for a good part of this first half. He's kind of cooled down a little bit, but he certainly is deserving.
Yeah, well, both guys are going to be there. Again, Zobrist, both guys that the Mets were targeting as free agents, but Zobrist goes to the Cubs, Murphy goes to the Nationals. And then Neil Walker, who's fourth, I mean, having a good year himself, but not knocking Zobrist, but Murphy's just having that good year. He should definitely be starting the game. Let's go third base. Again, Chris Bryant, great player, but no one there now is not starting the All-Star game?
Well, this is just the problem with having the fans vote. I mean, we could talk about this every year, how it's an issue because it's a popularity contest. People vote for their favorite team's players, and as a result, some of the best players don't get a chance to start. I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's an issue, and I get it. The fans, they want to keep the fans, but I mean, if this game is going to mean something like it does, they got to get the right guys. Got to be in there. I'm not knocking the Cubs, Zobrist or Bryant, but I mean, Arenado is just out of this world, really.
Well, and the biggest problem is shortstop.
I was getting there.
I mean, come on. Addison Russell might be a really good player someday. All indications are that he's going to. He's very young right now, still playing every day. But come on, he's not been a starting all-star caliber player this year, not even close. You got some other guys there. Trevor Story, who we saw hit 7 home runs in his first week and has had himself a really good first half. Even though he might not get quite as much attention after that rollicking first week. But Addison Russell, I mean, come on. I know you Cub fans want to get all your players in, but you got to recognize who's deserving and who's not.
Well, the last time I checked, 244 average, 6 home runs, 37 RBIs. They're not all-star numbers.
No.
Love Addison Russell. He's 22 years old. He will be an all-star player. He's not this year. I mean, come on. It's not even close.
Yes.
He's not this year. I think Corey Seager should be starting at shortstop, but that's just me. I mean, you got Cozart with the Reds having another guy who they maybe can move him in a big year.
Seager's a good pick.
Yeah, Seager, Story, like you said, Brandon Crawford also in the mix. Outfield, Fowler, all right, he's having a good year.
On the DL now.
Yeah, well, right, yeah. Harper, he's going to be there. You just know he's going to be there.
Some guys are just going to be there because of who they are.
I mean, looking at these guys here, guys who are not getting enough love here. Well, first of all, too much love. Jason Hayward, come on. He's fourth.
Jorge Soler in the top 10, please.
Ryan Braun probably should be starting this All-Star game.
Yeah, you could definitely make that case.
Starling Marte as well, perhaps. But they got Fowler, Harper, Cespedes, and again, we have a couple weeks until we see who's going to get the nods here. But right now in the National League, Molina, Rizzo, Zobrist, Bryant, Russell, Fowler, Harper, and Cespedes. And in the American League right now, Perez, Hosmer, Altuve, Machado, Bogarts, Trout, Bradley Jr., Betts, and Ortiz. So we'll see. That's what we got right now. But Brian, let's go over yesterday's games here.
Yes, let's pull it up here on my handy-dandy MLB app from yesterday. So the Mets win 1-0 in 11 innings. Kelly Johnson gives the game its only scoring with an 11th inning solo home run. DeGrom just continues to get no run support. Pitched great yesterday, but all for naught. Tehran, the Mets couldn't figure out once again. He'd thrown a complete game one-hitter last Sunday, shut him out for 8 innings yesterday, but luckily Kelly Johnson against his old mates comes through there to give the Mets a victory last night. Yankees beat the Twins as they always do. I mean, if there's one thing that's certain in baseball, it's that the Yankees are going to beat the Twins.
Seems that way.
And they do yesterday, 2-1, let alone when the Twins are good. Obviously they've had a terrible year this season.
All those years when they won the AL Central, they get to the division series
and swept
by the Yankees every time.
Yeah, exactly. Doubleheader yesterday in Baltimore. The Orioles sweep it from the Tampa Bay Rays. They win the first one 5-0 behind Gausman. Machado returned to the lineup after the 4-game suspension, and they win the nightcap 8-6. Blue Jays beat the White Sox 10-8 in a slugfest. And talk about a slugfest when the White Sox hit 7 home runs and lost the game.
Yep, unreal.
Unbelievable. Rockies beat the Arizona Diamondbacks 11-6 to win to Jorge De La Rosa. Marlins have taken 2 of the first 3 from the Cubs. They win yesterday 9-6. Indians blanked the Tigers 6-0. Complete game shutout for Carlos Carrasco. Padres over the Reds 3-0 behind Drew Pomeranz, who pitched great and hit a home run for San Diego. Nationals have lost 7 straight after yesterday's 6-5 defeat against Milwaukee. Matt Garza has been pitching well since he came back from the DL there for the Brewers. Astros pummeling the Royals 13-5 for the second straight day. Pirates finally got something from Andrew McCutchen yesterday. 2 home runs as he finally broke out. And Jeff Locke gave them a good outing. Pirates beat the Dodgers 6-1. Rangers put up a 10 spot. They beat the Red Sox 10-3. Out west, it was the A's over the Angels 7-3 as the Angels continue to have their struggles. Oakland surpassed them in the standings with last night's win. Madison Bumgarner actually loses last night to the Phillies of all teams, 3-2. Home run for Cameron Rupp gave the Phillies the lead, and the Giants with a rare loss. They've just been going so well the last couple of months. And the Cardinals lost to the Mariners last night 5-4 as Seattle has won the first two of that series. So now we'll do the pitching matchups for today's games. Mets and the Braves, of course, with Nimmo, the headliner, making his debut in right field. Bartolo Colon's on the mound. He opposes Bud Norris. Twins and the Yankees today from Yankee Stadium. Tyler Duffy, Nathan Eovaldi is the matchup as the Yanks go for a sweep. Fernandez is on the mound for the Marlins today as they battle the Cubs, looking for a series win 3 out of 4. Verlander for the Tigers, Josh Tomlin for the Indians as Cleveland tries for a road sweep. Padres are in Cincinnati. Anthony DeSclafani gets the ball for Cincy. Luis Perdomo for the Padres. Rays and the Orioles at Camden Yards. It's Drew Smyly opposed by Tyler Wilson. The Blue Jays will throw Marcus Stroman taking on the White Sox and Chris Sale. Tanner Roark takes Steven Strasburg's spot. He's still not ready to come back from his injury. Roark gets the ball against Jimmy Nelson in Milwaukee. Royals will try to salvage one here in this weekend series against the Astros. Doug Fister has been pitching very well for Houston, will be opposed by Ian Kennedy. Red Sox and the Rangers in Texas. Clay Buchholz back in the Boston rotation against the lefty Martin Perez. Oakland tries for a sweep in Los Angeles, taking on the Angels with Sonny Gray on the mound against Hector Santiago. Aaron Nola, Johnny Cueto is the matchup. Phillies and the Giants from San Francisco. Patrick Corbin for Arizona. Chad Bettis for the Rockies. Diamondbacks and the Rockies from Coors Field. Jaime Garcia opposes James Paxton. Two left-handers. Cards battle the Mariners. And Sunday Night Baseball with Clayton Kershaw on the mound will oppose the Pirates. Making his Major League debut is the right-hander Chad Kuhl. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right because I have never heard his name, but that's what we got for Sunday.
For Monday, we have the Dodgers taking on the Pirates. Scott Kazmir against Francisco Liriano from PNC. Mets and the Nationals, Noah Syndergaard and the Nationals will to be determined for the Nationals. That's always a big series there. Yankees taking on the Rangers in the Bronx. We have Chichi Gonzalez making his first start of the year against Ivan Nova. Red Sox taking on the Rays from St. Pete. Eduardo Rodriguez against Blake Snell. Cubs and the Reds in Cincinnati. Jake Arrieta against Dan Straley. We have the Indians and the Braves. We have Trevor Bauer against John Gant from Atlanta. I-70 matchup gets underway Monday. Cardinals taking on the Royals in KC. Adam Wainwright against Danny Duffy. Rockies taking on the Blue Jays at home in Colorado. Marco Estrada against John Gray. Phillies taking on the D-backs in the desert. Vince Velasquez against Robbie Ray. Astros taking on the Angels. Colin McHugh against Matt Shoemaker. And the final game will be the A's and the Giants, the battle of the Bay Area teams. Daniel Mengen against Jeff Samardzija. So that's going to do it for Basis Juice today. Thank you everybody for listening, and stay tuned for more episodes of Basis Juice. Have a good day, everybody.